Welcome to Standing on Business with Eric Foss. I'm your host, Eric Foss. Welcome to Standing on Business with Eric Foss. I'm your host, Eric Foss. All right, guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about something that I just was floating through YouTube and stuff and just came across. I was looking at like a clip of Sammy the Bull Gravano, the rat, the one who testified against John Gotti. And he was one there talking about prison, his experiences prison or whatever, and how nobody messed with him or whatever. And look, John Gotti got beat up. Okay, I want to break down these two situations, and we're going to tell the truth here. The situation that he's talking about with John Gotti happened in Marion, Illinois. That was like the old ADX. That's where they put the most high-profile, dangerous criminals, everything like that back then. So apparently. And I spoke to somebody who was there, so I wasn't there. Sammy the Bull wasn't there, but apparently it was something over. It was over. Basically, John Gotti, first off, has a big name. So if you beat up John Gotti, you can make a name for yourself if you're nobody. Remember that. People do that. People search for that kind of stuff. But it was something over the basketball game, football game, whatever, getting a sports bet in or whatever. They interrupted each other. Some words were exchanged, supposedly. And the next day, when they had their wreck or whatever, I guess they wrecked them together. You know, however many people they were wrecked together at the time, maybe 4 or 6, something like that. And the guy took off on him and got out on him. And that's true. Now, let's just break down this first, though. The ages of the guys. Okay, John Gotti was in his 50s then. The guy Walter Johnson is probably in his 30s, early 30s. The guy Walter Johnson wasn't no like soft guy. I mean, this guy was tough. You know, a lot of the guards and stuff were scared of him. He was doing probably a 10-year sentence or something, and look where he was at, Marion, Illinois. Why do you think he was there? The guy was probably a maniac, which he was. We'll get into what happened to him. So he takes off. He pops Gotti first and beats Gotti down, you know. John Gotti didn't tell. John Gotti, none of that kind of stuff. There was supposed that it came out later on in an indictment with the Aryan Brotherhood or something that John Gotti did put a hit out on the guy or was trying to or something like that, like a prison hit. But I think they moved to get once it happened. I think they wound up transferring the guy anyway, you know, out of that location, probably somewhere else, so nothing more could happen. So eventually, the guy who did it, Walter Johnson, he goes home. So he goes home, and when he went home, I don't know how long he was in the streets for, but he was getting on like one of them trains, like subway type trains or whatever, and he didn't want to pay. So he hopped the turnstile or whatever. So a cop comes to tell him he's got to leave or whatever, and Walter Johnson beat the cop up, took the cop's gun, and murdered the cop. Now he's doing life. So that tells you what kind of guy this guy was. This guy wasn't no just ordinary Joe Blow. See, when you get into prisons and stuff like that, it's like, you know, there's some tough people. Nobody cares what your title is. Nobody cares about that kind of stuff. And sometimes that puts a target on your back. So basically, it was just a dust up in prison. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm doing the age differences and all that kind of stuff. But I think if they'd have met in their 30s, I still think the guy Walter Johnson would have won. You know what I mean? I mean, the guys, sometimes people are tougher than you. You know, John Gotti's not known as a like professional fighter. It's not like he was Mike Tyson or something. He was John Gotti. So Sammy wants to brag on stuff like that and how he was never messed with and all this and that. But here's the thing you got to understand about him. Sammy the Bull was on all protective custody yards. He wasn't on yards. Anybody who was there with Sammy the Bull was there for a reason. And the reason they were hiding also. So they don't want to do nothing to get thrown out of there because their lives are really on the line. Sammy acts like he's so tough that he made it through. All you got to do is look at this. Look at what they did to Whitey Bulger. Whitey Bulger was locked up on them type of yards too, the PC yards. Okay, that's what we call them, dropout yards. He was fine, right? He wasn't in Hazelden 24 hours. Look what happened to him. Wasn't there 24 hours and they went in there and brutally murdered him. What do you think would have happened to Sammy the Bull? So don't believe his lies. But anyway, so, you know, so the John Gotti situation is like this. Like, you got people who always want to chime in and say this and say that, but they've never even been, like, if you've never even been into a lot of fights or anything like that, like the people who've actually been in fights and shit, they really aren't going to comment on something like this. You know, they're not going to say, oh, because a dude got beat up, you know, well, this and that. Because anybody's been in a lot of fights knows you win some, you lose some. But that's basically the situation that happened there. And you got Sammy the Bull out here, you know, talking all this tough guy stuff. He can talk about the mob stuff, but when he starts talking about the prison stuff, I can get in on him on that because I know more. He's never been on a real yard. He has not. He has not. All that 6 years in the lockup and all that, that was for his protection. Not because he's tough, not because he's crazy, none of that. The guy corn-fed, the one who did the tattoo of Odin on his arm. That guy was a dropout. That guy's a snitch. That guy's a punk. Trust me. All them guys that you see doing that kind of stuff and they're all together, of course nothing happened to them. Had an easy time. That's what is designed that way for them. You know, so he wasn't like some tougher guy or anything like that. Obviously, look at him. He was the weaker guy. He's the weaker guy. He just wants to keep on throwing trash on a tougher guy's name. You know, if it wasn't for John Gotti, you wouldn't even know who Sammy the Bull is. And that's the truth. He carried his umbrella, and he's known for telling on him. And yes, whatever happened to John Gotti in jail happened to him. But he didn't have problems. It's not like he had problems after that, people doing whatever. No, it doesn't happen like that. It's just a dust-up. It's just a fight. And Sammy the Bull wouldn't know nothing about that. Because if somebody like Walter Johnson even looked at Sammy the Bull the wrong way, Sammy the Bull would have ran to the lieutenant. He would have went and told. He would have went and told. Trust me. The guy's not built like that. All right, guys. Till next time. Remember, always stand on business.